Thinking about it for a long time, owning your own home, imagining your kids growing up in an environment, imagine you and your wife, your husband growing old together. For most people, buying your home is one of the largest investments they will make in their entire lives, and making sure that you get it right. Now, if you have watched my other videos, I talked about the benefits, pros and cons of owning your home, when you should own and when you should lease. But assuming that you are ready and you're ready to take the leap of faith and you're ready to buy your first house, what are some of the things that you should watch out, right? So don't buy a house until you watch this video. So before you go out there and buy your first home, the first tip I want to give you is to make sure that you have consistent income coming in. With the banks and the lenders, what they want to see is not just, hey, you make some money this year, but next year, your income stability is not there. Especially when it comes to self-employed. If you're self-employed, you are a business owner. To the banks, that is a risk because they're not so sure. You may have a great first year, but are you going to have a great second year? What about third year? What about fourth year? So the stability and consistency of income is very, very critical to the bank. One of the things that you could do to know how much a house you could afford is actually to consult and talk to a mortgage broker. In your mind, you may be thinking, wow, finally I'm gonna buy $1 million home, but after you talk to a mortgage broker, and the mortgage broker will let you know, hey, maybe the best you could afford based on your current income is actually a house that is $750,000. So then you have to adjust your expectations, right? Maybe you need to choose in a different neighborhood, depends on what you like, right? For some, maybe you like a bigger home, right? For some, you want convenience. Maybe you don't like a home, you want a condo instead. Right? It depends on what is your personal preference. I remember back then when I bought my first house in Vancouver, I was very nervous, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still a very large investment, and I didn't know a lot of these things that I'm teaching you. And then I figured out, okay, actually I need some of these things in place in order to buy the house that I wanted. But to be able to create your dream home. Now, at the time, it wasn't a very expensive house, right, compared to what I have today, but still, it was quite an experience. So I know what you are going through. So that's the first tip for you. Second tip is to make sure that you have good credit score, right? Having good credit is very, very important when it comes to getting your mortgage. You see, this is why my other videos I talked about credit cards. Most people, they're so scared of credit cards. And for some, they don't use credit cards because they don't trust themselves, right? They lack self-discipline. They're afraid that they're going to spend all that money and get into credit card debt. But if you use your credit card wisely, you're a master of credit card, not a slave to credit cards, right? And then you use it and you pay off the balance every single month, right? If not early, you will get better credit. You'll build up your credit score. So from there, now when you need to get a mortgage, you're in a better position to get the loan that you need, to get the mortgage that you need. So if your credit score is above 740, chances are you will be able to get the mortgage no problem, right? If you are 760, then you're in very good shape. Assuming you have consistent income coming in, maybe as a couple, it shouldn't be an issue. Now, if it's below 700, then you might have just a little bit more challenges, or the bank might charge you a higher interest rate. So know what you're getting yourself into. Tip number 3, making sure that you have at least 2 years of tax return. So again, the banks and the lenders, they look for that, right? Do you have consistent income? If this is a brand new job, they will be like, I'm not so sure how long you're gonna stick around at this job. Are you gonna be able to keep this job? If it's a business, it's the same thing. They wanna see at least 2 years, sometimes 2, 3, 4 years, right? They wanna see that track record. So consistency to the banks is very, very important because they want to know that you're able to pay back the mortgage and pay back the loans, right? They don't want to foreclose you or anything like that, right? So that's very critical. So before you buy the house, maybe you have the dream home that you want, but definitely look at your finances. Don't buy a house you can't afford. Always keep in mind when you buy a house, there are other expenses that come with it. If you get a bigger home in a nicer neighborhood, chances are you're gonna spend more money on the furniture. You're gonna pay more for the homeowner insurance, utilities, You're gonna get a nicer car. Your kids are gonna go to better school. Maybe you're gonna shop groceries at Whole Foods versus a typical grocery store. It depends on the neighborhood. Now all your expenses will go up. It's human nature. So never think about, oh, I could afford the mortgage. Yeah, maybe you could afford the mortgage, but could you afford everything else that goes with it? Because you buy a very nice home, chances are you're not gonna put some cheap furniture in there. All those things cost money, and they could cost a lot of money, especially as a couple. Maybe your wife wants certain things, and as a husband, you want certain things, right? It all depends. So think that through. This is a very important decision when it comes to buying your first home.